most people would probably keep their cars, like for just in case. But for me, selling it was definitely for a purpose, and it just unlocked so many things for me. Hey there, Lequita Travels. I document how small decisions build a work from anywhere life. So as I was, evaluating, because if you're planning on traveling, internationally, being a digital nomad, an expat, and you need to fund your lifestyle, one of the biggest things to consider is, okay, what is my budget going to be? And if you're already retired, you have a remote job already, you already have the income to sustain that lifestyle, awesome. This probably might not even matter in your situation. Or it might, but for the most part, it might not, because the reason I decided to sell my car was because it was more so about reducing expenses. That's number one. And two, if I've been saying, right, my goal is to become a digital nomad. And I've been saying this for over 6 years now. So it's kind of like, is it really in alignment to say, okay, yes, I want to, be a digital nomad and all these things, yet I'm still, in a sense, having a plan B, right? Because keeping my car would have been, okay, I'm going to keep the car. And let's not forget, it's not a car that's paid for. So if I already know that I'm going to Asia for 4 months, that means I'm going to pay 4 car notes, 4 car insurance payments. That could easily, for me, that could easily be a whole month and a half of staying somewhere internationally. Or for some people, it might be too much. It just depends on the lifestyle that you desire to live, where you're international. For me, it's important to stay at a place where I feel safe. It's no bugs. I kind of, in a sense, I want to live in luxury on a budget. So for me, that's why I decided to just sell my car. And it was like, okay. And then people ask, well, what if you come back to the States? And it's like, what if I can just rent a car? But guess what? That could be an option, or I can always get another car. But really, if I'm saying my ultimate goal is to be a digital nomad, work from anywhere in the world, and just be able to stay for whatever length of time I desire within the, guidelines of visas and, all those things, then what's the purpose of me having a car that's just parked in the States? That doesn't really make sense, especially since I've already sold my home. I went from a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house to a studio in Oregon for a contract job. And then from that, I'm now in Asia for 4 months. And currently I'm in Rawai in Phuket, Thailand. So it's like, I think a lot of times we operate from a space of fear. And I'm not going to say it was an easy decision. It was like, okay, let me really think this through. And then it was just like, the math just isn't mathing. So sometimes we have to just take the emotions, out of it and say, from a very economic standpoint, one-on-one math, does it make sense to spend almost, I'm trying to think, $1,700 for holding on to a car just in case I move back to the United States? And I'm already saying out of my mouth, and I've been saying for the past 6 years, I desire to live a vacation lifestyle where I get to live, work, play, and philanthropy anywhere in the world. So, and I'll just say that I was even giving myself this pep talk. Like, okay, Lequita, if we gonna be about it, be in alignment. And and in your life, there might be some things where it's like you're saying one thing, but then your actions and your behaviors are doing something else. And it's kind of like we can't expect for things to work out or to manifest or whatever you believe in for it to come to fruition if we're talking out of both sides of our mouth. On one hand, I'm saying I'm going to just travel the world and have 2 suitcases, a rolling carry-on, and another tote. And I'm going to hold on to my car and continue to pay a car note for the next 4 months just in case. Huh? No, those are very contradictory. And maybe I'm the only one. Okay, maybe, I'm the only person in the world that sometimes is like, Lequita, are you contradicting yourself, or are you living in alignment? And in this season of life, you know, as an empty nester, I'm like, you know what, I need to live in alignment. So yes, it was like, okay, I'm going to sell the car. And I think I sold the car to, you know, CarMax in Salem, Oregon. And surprisingly, I just was trying to get out of the car note. But I actually made some money off selling the car. Really paid for like a month of, I guess you could say, rent here internationally. So it's just kind of like everything still, it worked out even better than I expected, because all I really wanted to do was just get rid of the car to reduce my expenses and not try to hold on to something that I might not ever use ever again. Okay. So yeah, so in your life, you know, think about, if your goal is to really be a digital nomad, expat, or just someone that travels the world, and even some people call it, I think, like slow travel, however you like to phrase it, at the end of the day, it's pretty much foreigners that's going to stay in other countries. And sometimes people stay for years, other times people stay for, you know, a month, and others stay for the time of the, you know, expiration of their visa, whatever it might be. It's just people who are traveling, and it's not just like, oh, I'm going on vacation. No, it's actually like a lifestyle. It's the way of life. They're actually leaving, they're going to stay at this particular place, they're going to like actually immerse themselves into the culture and the environment and the food and all those things. It's definitely a way of life. And in order to do that, at least in my world, it was better to just reduce expenses, because then that makes my overhead less, and I could just focus on, you know, the expenses that I accrue here living internationally, along with a few other things. You're going to probably have, you know, maybe like a SIM card. You're going to probably keep your US cell phone number, and a few, or even you might even get like a mailbox. So you're going to have some expenses, but for the most part, you know, for me, the main reason for selling my car was, one, from a very financial standpoint, not emotional, nothing deep. It's just, I need to get my expenses down as low as possible, because whatever money I have, I need it to stretch. Because as we've probably talked about in some of the other videos, I have not figured out how to generate enough money remotely to sustain myself internationally, and I don't have a retirement check. So with keeping that in mind, so I don't have the stress or anything of, you know, money, I have money that's saved, and that's what I'm using. But meanwhile, I'm using those funds, and I budgeted for 4 months in Asia. But in the midst of that, I'm working towards generating the income needed to sustain myself while I'm living internationally. So in order to do that, reduce the expenses. And it feels so good not to have to think about, you know, my car note, car insurance. Even if I would have kept it, like, where am I going to park it at? And on top of that, I was in Oregon. Oregon is not home. Florida is home for me, because I was only in Oregon for a travel contract. So I guess I would say to you, in my world, it was about selling my car, getting rid of that so I can reduce my expenses. But in your world, what would you say are some of the things that you might be holding on to that, you know, you probably could get rid of, so that you can reduce your expenses and stretch your dollar as you're traveling? Because yes, things are a lot cheaper internationally, and some people do find accommodations for like $500 or $600. But if you're like me and you're interested in living more coastal, oceanfront, near the beach, the cost is going to be a little bit higher. Not high like the United States by no means, but you still might, you know, spend around, you know, I don't know, at least 800 possibly. I don't know the math for all of the different places, but it's just something to consider, because a lot of times you see videos and everybody's like, oh, it's so cheap, it's so cheap, it's so cheap. Yeah, it's cheap, but cheap is very relative, because there's probably accommodations that's in the city center or other places that might be $400 or $500, and it might be acceptable to you. And if that's okay for you, and I'm speaking in US dollars, excuse me, then that works for you. But for someone like me and what I desire, just coastal living, you know, in Florida, like living in Jacksonville, staying near the beach, oceanfront, you're gonna spend at least probably like $3,000. So yes, the price here is like way cheaper. It might be a third of the cost, something like that. But either way, I want to really be able to have the accommodations that I desire to have and do the things that I desire to do while I'm here and living and experiencing different cultures, and not necessarily be stressed about money as I figure things out. So, you know, you gotta decide, what are you going to do in order to reduce your expenses, and what are you going to get rid of? I got rid of my car, my house, and all I have is the 2 suitcases. I did ship a few packages to my mom, simply because they were like sentimental things, like my daughter's dance shoes from when she was probably like 3 years old, you know, stuff like that. But besides that, everything else I have is in my luggages, and they will travel with me as I go about this world. So, all right, this is Lequita Travels.